the session on and upwards the era of the empowered woman. And for today's session, our guest is Ms. Fatemah Sajwani. Fatma is currently serving as the manager for global talent sourcing at Keep Trucking and is a talent specialist with about 4 years of experience in recruitment, talent management, and HR partnerships for SaaS and fintech companies. Uh, and she's also somebody who's a self-employed digital creator and has previously served at the human resource business partner at Jazz. Her professional experiences also include titles such as head of business recruitment, lead business recruiter, and more. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us today. Today's session is all about women empowerment. It is about the challenges and situations that affect the personal and professional lives of women. It aims to explore the ways women can empower each other, themselves, and ways that they can use to conquer new norms throughout their professional journeys. Thank you so much for joining us, Fatma. Would you like to
Thank you.
introduce yourself as well?
Yeah, sure. So as Meetup mentioned, my name is Fatemah Sajwani, and I have been working in the tech space for over 4 years now. I started my journey in HR in the technology industry back in Feb 2018. Can't believe it has been over 4 years now. And throughout, I have been working in HR or recruitment. That's my forte. But previously, I was working in the marketing space. So yeah, I love everything brand management to HR, which is a weird combination, but I guess that's what I have on my resume.
Okay, so to begin this session, and this is something that came in from the audience section, do you experience resistance when you're leading men, taking into account the fact that you're someone who is at a leadership position in a very big organization, and you probably have a lot of men working underneath you. So, do
Yeah.
you feel any resistance when you're leading in them, and how do you deal with it, and why do you think that this resistance exists in the first place?
Yeah. There was a point where I was leading a full on male team, right? I had, I think, five male colleagues that I was managing. And before that, right, I was their colleague. So cut to I have these 4 or 5 men that I am managing now. It was definitely a transition, but I think they made it quite easy for me. And I think I was also someone that did not want to have that transition overnight. कि अब मैं order चलाना शुरू कर दूं उन पे कि, listen, do this and do that. I made sure that I was giving them the space to also have their own journey. And I wanted to get space from them as well. कि उनको ऐसा feel ना हो कि, okay, now I am in power, so I can do anything that I want. So I did not get as much resistance, but I think I've had some experience where I was working with male managers and they sort of had this weird this attitude where I would feel if I asked questions, they were not very happy about it, or they were sometimes insecure. Okay, she's asking the correct questions, and she's in a good rapport with the leadership, so she might actually take my own position. So I've had that experience, but not so much from male colleagues when I was leading them. Yeah.
And okay, so in when you specifically talked that there were certain managers in साथ you felt that they had an attitude problem where they got insecure of you. How do you recommend if anybody else is in that position? How do you, from your experience, how do you think they should deal with it?
Oh, I wish I had learned this because I was struggling. I talked to a lot of my female colleagues outside of my workplace and just to get a sense of validation that I'm not the only one. Unfortunately, I wasn't the only one, right? But learning from each other's experience and the experience that my friends colleagues in the tech space had was, just focus on your work because everybody else would know that your work is what really matters at the end of the day. Yes, sometimes what happens is that even if you're the best performer in the team and you have a male manager that's not okay with you being so good at what you do, right? Sometimes what happens is that they sort of try to take your credit. do not present you within in front of the leadership because of the insecurity. Own network with the leadership, because if your manager is not giving you that opportunity, you should have that sense of accomplishment, and your validation should come from the leadership and not just this guy, right? So yes, make sure that you have your own trajectory when it comes to dealing with these toxic managers, because obviously it's a journey, right? One day you will, it wouldn't be कि आप एक दिन सोच रहे हो कि ठीक है अब now I will just resist what he's doing, right? It will take some time, but make sure you stay motivated during that time. You're not compromising on your work, because the day you compromise on your work, this guy will have a reason. Okay, because you were doing this is why I'm giving you so much of just make sure that you focus on your work. Talk to a lot of female people and male colleagues as well, because sometimes what happens is that your male colleagues see that you're struggling with this, right? Sometimes male colleagues also face this. It's not कि सिर्फ female colleagues are facing this. Sometimes लड़कों के साथ भी यही हो रहा होता है कि यार हमारा manager हमें वो credit ही नहीं दे रहा. He's taking all of the credit, right? So when you get this empathy from your male colleagues, you would understand, yeah, ठीक है, it's not my problem, it's our this. So yeah, just keeping your feelings to yourself is the worst thing that you could do. So just talk to people and identify कि अच्छा problem कहाँ है, because unfortunately we have this conditioning लड़कियों के साथ especially कि अगर कोई problem है तो ये मेरे साथ ही कोई मसला होगा, बाकी everything is going well. So just make sure you talk to people and try to find the actual problem. And if your manager is a problem, and if you feel that there's a lot of toxic behavior, just report it to the HR.
Okay. So another question that I have is, okay, this when women are in positions of leadership, they have to work a lot to be taken seriously, because a lot of times, and given that आपने specific situation mentioned किया कि or you were part of a team and then you got a promotion, and all of a sudden you were leading that same team that you were a part of. ठीक है? In
Yeah,
situations like that, it's usually very difficult to make people take you seriously, and when you try कि आप थोड़े assertive हो जाएँ, तो you end up alienating yourself बहुत बुरे तरीके से, ठीक है?
yeah,
Basically, if you demand that something be done, and that is obviously something that comes with the territory. अगर आप if you're in a leadership position, you obviously have to be assertive at times. आप हर वक़्त तो
yeah,
polite और kind नहीं कर सकते, ठीक है? And that's what happens. That's generally the vibe कि अगर कोई भी if there's somebody who means business, they usually get alienated very, very quickly. How do you
yeah,
feel? Okay, and what do you say? How do you think a person should navigate through such a situation? कि उनको फिर क्या करना चाहिए कि they don't get alienated but they get the job done as well.
yeah. I think my whole personality is like this. Like, because okay, see, I am a second child, right? I'm the middle child, so I know how to play my parts, right? And I know where to be, where to actually, have all the fun. Because obviously you're being dominated by the elder sibling, and then you're getting a lot of crap from your little sibling as well. कि, सब कुछ दोनों को करने मिल रहा है, मुझे कुछ करने को मिल नहीं रहा. So I think I had a lot of that frustration built in. So when I came into power, right, I decided कि, okay, I don't want to give them that whole experience. So I decided, like, I was just talking to a friend, and he was like, oh my god, your team, what's up, why is the culture of your team so chilled out, where you're talking about personal stuff as well and you're talking about work as well. So like, I honestly believe that if you have to manage people, you need to understand a lot about their personal lives, right? What triggers them, what helps them, what motivates them, and also about their career aspirations. Because there may be times when they're not understanding work, or they're not doing something that you wanted because of reason, right? It has to be a two-way communication. Yes, there are times when you have to be assertive. What I personally do is I try to have a very safe place where people could, come and talk about their own personal lives, but also a lot of their opinions on work, right? Before I give them a target, I would always ask them, this situation has occurred. How would you deal with it? And everybody would come up with their opinions. And then after everybody goes with what they had to say, I was like, what, we could possibly do these three things from your end, and I would love if we could add on to these two things that are coming from my side. So ऐसा भी उनको फील ना हो कि मैं एक ऑर्डर दे रही हूँ उनको कि ये काम करना है, because it has to be um, a collaborative effort. Because if I feel कि यार मैंने एक आइडिया दिया था और अब वो इम्प्लीमेंट होने जा रहा है, it motivates me a lot, right? So I give that opportunity to my team members as well, and they would obviously feel motivated. Let's do it. So that has to be done. And I did the same thing when I got promoted during the pandemic, right? It was a big shocker for me. I was thinking कि अच्छा यार bonus तो मिल नहीं रहा, promotion कैसे मिल गया? Like I was in a imposter syndrome situation कि how did this happen to me? But I think I decided that, starting the next day, because it was effective tomorrow. So I had decided, okay, from tomorrow, I have to manage my colleagues that I was basically chilling with, right? But I need to make sure that they have their own space to transition this news. They don't feel कि अच्छा भी order दे. So it has to be very thought out. And also, a lot of new leaders don't know this, that they need to delegate. बहुत सारे लोग करते हैं कि अच्छा यार ये काम मेरा है, मैं ही करूँगा. As a manager, you need to learn how to delegate stuff ताकि you can get the work done, and you can think about people and their career trajectories and their development, because a lot of managers don't do that, unfortunately.
Okay, so if we talk about power structures, right? So every organization has a specific power structure जो follow हो रहा होता है, ठीक है?
Mm-hmm.
How do you recommend that women navigate through those power structures? ठीक है,
Can
like
you
let's
elaborate?
make it very specific. Yeah, let's make it very specific to you. एक certain तरीका होता है जिससे आप शुरू में when you're like very early on in your career, like if you're just starting out, there's a way जिसके through आप उस power structure में navigate कर रहे होते हैं कि अच्छा
Mm-hmm.
ओ this is the
Yeah.
power structure, this is the hierarchy, इस तरीके से मैं इसके अंदर navigate कर रहा हूँ अपना आप. If I have an opinion and if I have like a very big disagreement, ठीक है, let's just talk about recruitment at this point, right? So there might be a policy in place जिससे आप बिल्कुल agree नहीं करते, but obviously very early
Mm-hmm.
on in your career you won't be that vocal about it. ठीक है, that's something that I would personally opt for कि अच्छा oh I'm just starting out, let's not be that vocal about it. I don't know how these people are going to perceive it, but
Yeah.
uh, versus now that you're in a leadership position, it's probably very different the approach that you have on how you're going to navigate those waters. Speaking from your own experience, how do you recommend women go about it? Should they talk about such things that are important to them and that might be slightly problematic or not widely accepted as of yet at the very start, and just voice their opinions regardless of what they are, or just wait till they get
Yeah.
to a position where they can make those changes for themselves?
Yeah. So personally, I was the one who would vocalize their opinions from day one. Even when I was interning at Keep Truckin', everybody in my team was like, "What's her problem? Like, why does she have to go and talk about things?" I mean, everybody's thinking about that thing, but nobody would actually go out and say, this is a problem. So, for example, if I am being told as a recruiter that you need to interview this person, even though he or she does not fill the criteria, like why would I interview this person and move them into the interview stage, right, when they should have been declined at the first place, right? And if just because someone is referred this in the company, and someone with power in the organization, right? And I said no to that. I was like, it affects my credibility. I cannot pass on a candidate that should be rejected, based on the criteria. So that was the first thing, and I was an intern at that time, and everybody was like, "Ooh, what did she just say?" Right? And I was sitting in a meeting, and I told them, "Okay, see, it's affecting our credibility as it's also affecting our team's credibility, because anybody could just come walk all over us and say कि अच्छा मतलब हम किसी के नौकर तो नहीं है." So that was my attitude from day one. And I realized that not a lot of people welcome my opinions, right? So I had to really narrow down people who would actually listen to me. A lot of my colleagues, so like I had like these two groups of people, people that just hate me for vocalizing my opinion, right? And then there are people who would actually listen to me, and because they had similar opinions, or they were okay with me vocalizing opinions. And necessarily ये लोग वो नहीं थे जो मेरे team का हिस्सा थे, right? I just had one or two people that would actually listen to me. So I decided to actually vocalize my opinions to other people. And when you talk about the power structure, right, a lot of managers actually mind कि अगर हम skip level करके कोई बात कर रहे हो, right? So मेरे manager की manager को अगर मैं directly बात कर रही हूँ, कोई अपनी opinion raise कर रही हूँ, them a lot of managers just mind this. And like personally, I would tell my team members, you know, actually what, if my manager is available, please talk to him, connect with him, network with him, because you will learn something or the other, right? Because बहुत सारे लोगों को ये होता है कि ये हमारी शिकायत ना लगा दे, या ये कोई ऐसी बात ना कर दे जो हमें बतानी नहीं थी, right? So a lot of people mind that, and you need to identify if your manager is like that or not. um, a lot of the times you need to casually network. You don't necessarily need to talk about work stuff. So, for example, if there's someone in a leadership position, you know, CEO, the general manager, anybody of that sort, right? You don't necessarily have to talk to them about work. You can just genuinely chat with them, because that casual conversation would sometimes lead to, "Acha, yaar, Fatma ne ye baat ki thi, let's just bring her on board for this project." And that has happened with me, right? So if you feel that your manager is not comfortable or your colleagues are not comfortable, you just basically moving away from the power structure and, you know, talking to people in the leadership positions. Just just do what you're comfortable with. And if your manager tells you, okay, you know, why are you doing this way, you have to come up with a logic that, you know, okay, I feel that, you know, this is something I wanted to discuss, and there's no policy in place in any organization कि आप उनसे बात नहीं कर सकते. So yeah, I personally am
अच्छा.
someone that is very vocal about their opinions, but is, if you're comfortable with it, do it. If you're not, then don't.
Okay, but like if we talk about systematic change, right? So the basic point अपना opinion raise करने का यही होता है कि you are thinking about bringing systematic change or bringing in an idea that's either new or it's unpopular. That's the only reason
Mhm.
कि it's not part of the
Yeah.
average everyday practices at an organization.
Hmm.
How do you say कि अच्छा, so if there's an idea which is very, let's say it's new, okay, let's not say unpopular, let's say it's very new, and you want to
Hmm.
see it being implemented in your own organization, right? How do you make that happen? How do you make sure कि वो एक इस तरीके से systematically वो चीज़ हो जाए कि you're not somebody जो एक new idea raise करे, तो you're, जैसे आपने कहा ना कि people say कि oh, you know what is her problem वाली approach,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
a new idea basically means more work, right? But if you do want to be
Yeah.
that person who brings about new ideas, things that are not accepted widely, how should you go about it?
Yeah. I'm sure if someone has an idea that they want to get implemented, they see a problem, and that is why they want to change that, right, and bring in a new solution to it. I mean, बैठे बिठाए तो किसी को नहीं सोच रही कि अच्छा चलो आज हम ये कर लेते हैं. They probably see the issue with the current state, right, and they feel कि, you know, we should move from state A to state B. There's a reason behind it, and let's implement, you know, one, two, three, four things to move. I've done this multiple times in my career, where I would actually state my opinion, but I make sure that I do my research, right? So, for example, I say कि यार ये चीज हमें negatively impact कर रही है. Before actually stating that, I would do my research कि यार इस चीज को हमें जहाँ 2 दिन लग सकते थे, हमें 2 weeks लग रहे हैं. Why are we okay with this inefficiency, right? Or for example, we had this really interesting activity in, I think, 2 years ago, where the hiring managers were not okay with you know, getting fresh graduates for a certain position. And I said that, you know, at one point we have hired these fresh graduates. Why are we not okay with doing it right now? So they had their own reasons, and I went back. I talked to a lot of managers, and I asked them to pick up their best performers, right? Made that list throughout the organization in that particular department, right? I talked to the HR business partner for that particular department, and um, it turns out 33% of that team is, or 33% of the top performers are fresh graduates, people who had no experience but had a lot of internships, right? They had a lot of drive, they had coachability, and that is why once they got that mentorship, they are performing at their best, right? So I took these numbers and I told them that, see, 33% people are fresh graduates, and then nobody could actually say, because it was a fact. So whenever you need to make a change, do your research, grab some insights, and then present it so that people say, okay, consider that idea. Okay, yeah. If she's coming up with something, she has done her research and she's not just saying this because ek din usko khwab aaya, kar lete hain, right? She's done some work. Actually, that got implemented. We had an overhaul of the interviewing process, of the recruitment process and everything, and of how our training would be done. Because if we're getting fresh graduates, right, we need to make sure that we're enabling them. So from the HR business partner to recruitment, to hiring managers, to the enablement or the training team, everybody was part of that project and we actually implemented it. So if you're coming up with an idea, make sure that you have your facts right, you have your research done, so that if someone says कि अच्छा फातिमा ने कोई idea दिया है, it means that, and then by now they know okay, she's done her research, she might want to consider it.
Okay, so you just mentioned कि mentors होते हैं लोगों के and आप उनसे वो कर सकते हैं, right? So how important do you think कि you need to have a mentor to grow as a leader, right? Because okay, so you're hiring a fresh grad. अब आहिस्ता आहिस्ता उस फ्रेश ग्रेड को आपने इतना इनेबल करना है कि वो एक पॉइंट के ऊपर आके एक लीडरशिप रोल के ऊपर आए, बिकॉज नो बडी वॉन्ट्स टू स्टे एट
Yeah,
एन एग्जेक्टिव लेवल पोजिशन ऑल देयर लाइफ, राइट? ठीक है, हाउ इम्पोर्टेंट डू यू थिंक कि इस सारी प्रोसेस के अंदर इज हैविंग अ मेंटोर? एंड देन answer this and then I'll go further.
hmm. I personally believe it's very important. So when I came into this field, right, I was from a marketing background, and when I switched my field to HR, I decided to take this risk. And mind you, I had done my master's, so doing an internship after a master's was basically like giving myself up to the world. Because at this time, all of my colleagues, all my classmates were doing these amazing, jobs at the PNGs and the Telenors and all of that, and I was doing an internship, and they were, what is she doing with her life, right? At that time, the recruiter that I was actually interning with, she really became my mentor at that time, and she was like, "I'm taking of getting you on." It was an internship, right? They were not expecting a lot, but she took the risk. She got me into, she referred me for the position. I made it to the interview rounds, got the offer. I actually started the job the very next day. And she coached me throughout. After she left the organization, I felt, okay, I don't have that mentor. But obviously, outside of work, we were connected. She's one of my best friends to date. So, the mentor turned into a best friend, which never really happens, especially in workplace where you never really find people who want to be trusted forever. But that happened in the organization. And then one of my current managers actually is really, I would say he's definitely a mentor, because even when I left Keep Trucking and joined back, I was in touch with him constantly. So I think mentorship is very important because they give you a very neutral understanding of things, right? Yes, they might be subjective to some point, but वो आपको बहुत objectively एक चीज का जो है ना एक holistic view आपको देते हैं कि अच्छा फातिमा, you are thinking this because you are inside a box right now. What are other people thinking? What are the other opportunities? And mentorship actually helps you with that. It helps you with looking outside of that box, looking outside of your own आपको देता है कि अच्छा यार चीजें ऐसी चल रही, not everything is rainbows and unicorns, you need to get out of your movie, right? So that really is helpful, I would say.
Acha. So there's a lot of studies that actually suggest and conclude कि it's very difficult for women to find mentors. In your specific case, जो आपने example quote की, you were very lucky to find somebody who did that. But if there are actual statistics that come up with the result कि oh, it's very difficult for women to find these mentors, because you have been able to find a mentor successfully, what do you think कि आप वो एक holistic relationship किस तरीके से build कर सकते हैं, या फिर अगर आपको वो mentor अपने workplace में मिल ही नहीं रहा, ठीक है, then how should you go about your own growth? Because as you just said, you're in a box, and जब आप किसी एक specific position पे होते हैं, I feel like you are in that box. आप उससे ज़्यादा बाहर सोचते नहीं हैं क्योंकि आपको उतना exposure नहीं होता, and you're mostly thinking कि oh, I'm thinking this must be right. There's nobody telling you उसके ऊपर से कि oh no, there's so many other streams, so many other avenues that you can be thinking about. How do you
Yeah.
suggest कि one navigates about that situation?
Yeah, so I think finding a mentor is a journey, right? It might not be in your department, they might not be in your organization as well, as you mentioned. I think when you're looking for a mentor, the first thing that you need to see is okay, this person is genuinely looking after me, and they actually want me to succeed, right? Because there are thousands of people in the organization that don't want you to succeed. And so if you find that one person that is genuinely happy for your success, I think that's the that you want to see. कि अच्छा यार, okay, this guy or girl is really happy for my success, and they're not insecure about it, because sometimes people generally are very toxic about this whole situation कि अगर मैंने इसको कोई recommendation दे दी और ये सक्सेसफुल हो गई तो मेरा जो है ना टाइम आ सकता है ऑर्गेनाइजेशन lot of these people. So I think if you find that one person in the organization, maybe they're not your mentor, they're just a peer, right? Or someone from another team that you maybe saw in the cafe and had a good time chatting with them. Or it could be someone outside of your work that you feel कि अच्छा यार मैं इनसे अगर suggestion ले लूँ. It could be your family as well. It could be your siblings as well, right? Someone from the industry. I think for women it's very important. जैसा आपने कहा ना, it's very difficult for them. It's because a lot of the times we don't actually make that effort. I'm sure there are a lot of women in tech that want to mentor you, but so you really need to go out and network with people. If you feel that you're not finding someone in your organization, you might want to just network with other people, especially on LinkedIn, be it women or men in the tech space, if that's the industry that you work in. So I think just networking with them, understanding their experiences, because if someone has gone through a similar experience, they would actually be able to give you advice, rather than someone who has not gone through any of the things that you have gone through. Like in our mentorship expect kar. So someone who is who has been in your in the box that you were in, I think that would definitely help you. But
अच्छा, okay.
it's not really difficult. It's just how much you want to put that effort and find that mentor for you.
Okay. Okay, so we talked a lot about आपके managers क्या कर रहे हैं, and if the problem is, and how to tackle different problems if the problem is coming from a manager, right? But what if
Mhm.
the problem is not your manager or his attitude? The problem is that there is a bias that lies in the very, very top hierarchy, say कि आपकी company का CEO इस तरह का है कि बहुत biased opinions हैं उनकी, उनकी बहुत biased approach
Mhm.
है. तो
Mhm.
मतलब एक तो बहुत सिंपल अप्रोच है ना, लीव द ऑर्गेनाइजेशन, फाइंड अनदर ऑर्गेनाइजेशन.
I was
बट
about to say that best option is run away from that organization.
so you don't recommend another way around it, you just like run.
Yeah.
ठीक है.
See, because personally, I feel that when you are interviewing with an organization, you need to do a lot of research, right? I might want to work for Unilever, or I might want to work at Nestle, for example, because it's my dream job. ठीक है, बचपन से मैंने सोचा हुआ है कि किसी बड़ी organization में मुझे काम करना है. But while you're interviewing, you feel that there's some sort of red flag. You might not even feel that there's a red flag. Um, but once you start asking those people कि अच्छा मेरा भी यार इस टीम में अगर for example supply chain में मुझे काम करना है within this particular big employer in the country, how has your experience been? And they tell you, and I'm just giving this as a hypothetical situation. I don't know how the supply chain team in Nestle works, but I'm just saying that they tell you कि अच्छा यार ये थोड़ा सा issue है, and if you feel that ये थोड़ा issue नहीं है, बहुत बड़ा issue है. So if you get that offer, you have to consider this कि यार ये problem आ सकता है. So be ready for this issue to be in that team, because you could dream about an organization, but it is not it is not guaranteed that it is a good culture fit for you, because आपके रेज्यूमे पे बहुत अच्छा लगेगा कि आपने एक बड़ी ऑर्गेनाइजेशन के साथ काम किया या छोटी ऑर्गेनाइजेशन के साथ काम किया, इट विल शो के you have made it. But if the culture is not something that you feel is a fit for you, it can become really toxic. You will not enjoy going to that organization 9 to 5 every day. वो फिर आपको ओवर टाइम के लिए बुला रहे हैं, you'll be like यार मैंने अपनी छुट्टी इस कंपनी के लिए बर्बाद की है, like what am I doing with my life? And a lot of people have done this, right? They work with big companies and then eventually leave the organization, have their own startup, or they're just doing their own thing, or switch to another big company to test the waters. So I always recommend people to do a culture check for them, because I think organizations now know okay, they're not only hiring the candidate, right? The candidate also has a lot of power to make that choice कि मुझे इस company के साथ काम करना है या नहीं. So you have to, come out of that situation जहाँ आपको एक offer letter मिल जाता है तो आप बहुत खुश हो जाते हो. You need to make sure कि if you're interviewing with the company, you resonate with the culture and you'd be okay with what sort of values they have. So yeah, always do your research before you actually apply. And खुदा ना खास्ता जॉब के बाद अगर ये सिचुएशन हो जाती है, talk to people, try to talk to try to understand why is there a bias, and if you could help get that bias outside of the organization, if not, then I would just recommend you to switch the company, because आप एक दो लोगों को एक change करवा सकते हो, but it's not your responsibility to make this whole change in the organization, because I'm sure अगर वो culture top down आ रहा है, it is very it's sort of impossible कि आप जो है ना पूरे 10,000 लोगों की opinions change करो अपनी organization में. I feel that way.
Okay. So my last and final question for you, from you would be, okay, what is advice that you would give to the next generation of female leaders or young women entering the profession and organization? Okay, वो so there are probably mistakes that you made, right? Like if you talk about specifically
Sure.
when you entered the workforce, okay, and a lot of them might be related to your gender as well. You might have thought, oh, I responded in a specific way. I shouldn't have. My approach would have been different. My communication should have been different. And a lot of these things
Hmm.
are related to our gender as well, because if we take like the smallest thing into account, like just communication, you have to be very very sure कि आपने किस तरीके से communicate करना है. You have to be very assertive. You have to be respectful yet not bossy, and so that the other
Yeah.
person actually listens to you. So it's like a very very it's a tactic basically. आपने बहुत technically हर चीज को approach करना है, वरना it will turn into a problem for you. अभी शायद ना हो,
Yeah,
लेकिन
for
थोड़े
sure.
टाइम के बाद.
Yeah,
So
for
what is
sure.
the
You
advice
have to
that
be
you would
assertive.
give?
Yeah. And you have to be assertive, but not too assertive because she is bossy or she's being, sorry to use this word, bitchy, right? If you're too friendly, then you're giving like cues that, the girl is interested in something else. Unfortunately, हमारी वो इस तरह की कंडीशनिंग हुई है ना कि हमें हर चीज सोच सोच के करनी है कि हम ऐसे हैं, हम ऐसे हैं, कुछ कोई कह तो नहीं रहा. So वो बहुत ज़्यादा जो है ना हमने अपने इनग्रेन किया हुआ है माइंड में. But I think if I had to give an advice, I would say that stop asking for men for any sort of validation. अगर मैं next 5 years की बात कर रही हूँ, because I think I'm hoping at least कि by the next 5 years, men will start understanding that we're not looking for their validation. We're just trying to do our own thing, because a lot of men say कि see, you're doing this job because we gave you that space, right? And I tell them that ठीक है, if you want to feel good about yourself by saying that, it's fine, but we're not really looking for validation. We're just looking for equal opportunity, right? So that both of us can work together. It's not a man versus woman thing. So men and both women need to agree to that, because there are a lot of female employees that sort of use the woman card a lot, and I would just recommend them not to do that, because जो genuinely काम करना चाह रही है organizations में, because their credibility. So let's not do that. As female leaders, I would say use that power to bring change, because if you are in power and um, you have that authority to really show what women can do at leadership positions, please do that. But don't use that power to, basically any sort of hatred towards the male counterparts, because that is something that I've also seen. मैं लीड बन गई, अब मैं इनको बताती हूँ जो मेरे साथ पिछले 5-6 साल से हो रहा है, अब मैं इनके साथ करूँगी. So don't do that, please don't do that. And also be assertive, yes, but try to give them space. I think मैं शुरू से अब तक मैं यही बोल रही हूँ, try to give them the space so that they become allies for us. Because as much as we want our female colleagues to be empowered, we also would love to see a lot of male allies at work that genuinely respect us, genuinely are happy for our successes, right? And they genuinely value to what we bring on the table. So I think if we can create that sort of a relationship with our male colleagues, that's the best thing. And if you're a woman in power, you can definitely use your power for that change. So yeah.
Okay. Okay, I think that should be enough for today's session. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so much for taking out the time and answering all of these questions.